Hello there.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, comic book nerds, this is the Jedi Archives. We'll review the latest and greatest Star Wars comics. Today we are doing the High Republic Shadows of Starlight. My name's Jonathan.
I am Bryce.
And I'm Mike.
Nice.
And hopping on over to League of Comic Geeks, let's check out the covers for this week's issue. It's Star Wars, The High Republic Shadows of Starlight number 3. Bell Zettifar Jedi Knight. Many knights were lost in the fall of Starlight Beacon, and many lost their way after the disaster. Bell Zettifar did not. With his trusty charhound Ember at his side, Bell will battle to rid the galaxy of the villainous Nile, and they won't be alone. Learn who survived the fall of Starlight. And this is the main cover for this issue.
So if people don't know what these Shadows of Starlight are, these are, was it 4 or 5 issues? And they kind of take us back to our heroes from phase 1 and kind of say where it happened in this year kind of window. And so we're following them all each for this year. And so now we're on Bell and kind of his buddy Buryaga.
Burry.
Yeah, and it's funny because it even kind of skips his rescue. There's a little, we'll talk about it later, but there's a little blurb says, "If you want to know about the rescue, read this book."
Yes, I thought that was so well done. It's great because number one, I haven't read it. I haven't read that thing, and so I'm glad that they actually, for somebody who hasn't read that specific story, very cool that they did that.
Yeah, and I have read it because, of course, as soon as something comes out, I can't not read it. So I
haven't got to that one yet.
It's really good. It's really good. So I really enjoyed it. It's funny because with all these different connections to other works of art, there's bound to be spoilers, and so people get spoiled left and right. But I'm okay. Oh, and I hear Luke squeaking away.
Luke, knock it off.
So yeah, this is the main cover, and we see Bell Zettifar, and this looks like he's been knighted. He's holding his Padawan braid, and there's a lightsaber. Mm-hmm. Well, it still is, but it's just been chopped off. And then this is another cover, a spoilery cover, only if you haven't read the Tales of Light and Life.
That's a scary sight. A Wookiee full rage like that. Yeah.
And then this is the third variant cover. We see Bell looking a little bit younger here with Ember.
Yeah.
His Charhound. I love this cover.
I'm digging that one.
Yeah, the Ronin.
Oh my gosh. I love this cover. It looks so vibrant. Look at the sparks coming from the lightsaber. Or that's his hair, but it just looks so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just
it just looks like it looks like it's moving. And here it is colored in somewhat. Well, not really colored in, but the glow of the lightsabers.
Burry's massive lightsaber.
It's like a long sword.
Yeah, it's a claymore, I think it's called, right? Yeah, it's just massive, dude.
And it has to be because he's huge, so it makes sense.
Well, this one is way more ornate than what his actually is. Like they took this and just made it grand scale,
right? Because this is just like wrapped, right? The hilt.
Well, it's still a crossguard hilt.
Yeah, but
it's just not as elaborate.
It is just kind of wrapped up.
A little embellished.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here's the Virgin cover of that. Really nice. And that brings us back to the original cover.
Man, those last 3 covers. I mean, they're the same thing, but just different. They're all fire. Yeah.
So, any favorites, boys?
I love highlighting one color and letting it glow. I always love that. But that white and black one, woo, man, that's sharp. Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not gonna lie, that's my favorite right there.
The last one, the Virgin with the highlighting color, is pretty tight too.
I do like that too, but this seems like less to me. This seemed like
Well, the
less.
shadowing hides detail, and with the
Yeah, I
black
liked all
and
the
white,
detail in
it
this.
doesn't hide the details.
Yeah,
So, man, that's clean. I like that.
and Burry's lightsaber looks like Stellan Geo's, but bigger.
Yeah, times two.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
Well,
how do
but
you like
Stellan's
the
also
kid?
had the actual saber cross guard, whereas his is
right,
just a standard cross guard.
right. So, what's your favorite, Bryce?
I like that one.
This one, the
The
Virgin.
versions are cool. No. The non version.
The title.
Yeah,
This one.
I liked it. I like the title the way it is because it's the High Republic. Like it's just so ornate. It's just it's like an elegant type like label.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I like that, and then what they did there with Burry and Bell is just really awesome.
You know what? I like the layers in this one because you can see that there's like the moon in the background, then the logos in the middle, and then Burry and Bell are in the front in the foreground. So it's nice. You've got like 3 layers. It's really cool. But
But I
absolutely,
will
most
tell
pieces is
you that
fun.
I actually have the variant with the younger
Oh,
Bell and Ember.
You have
That's
this
the
one?
variant that I have.
Oh, the one
Yep.
with Ember? This one.
Yep, that's the one I have right here.
Nice.
it's
Nice.
kind of an interesting one. Like, it's not. It's almost like it's taken. I think it was a photo. Like, oh, clip, and got him in action, and it's just like the dog's not looking. It's very interesting.
Even Bell's not looking.
Yeah.
It's looking off to the side. Yep. So we've got the characters here. Creators. Characters. We've got Bell, Zedifar, Buryaga Agaberry, Pratri Veter, 909, Eldar Man, Ember, Gorge, Imperial Stokes, Melis Shrike, Nelly, Okoro, Pebble Kronara, Toko Arkov, Bree, Estala Maru, Eye of the Nile, John, Loden
John.
Greatstorm. I think Loden Greatstorm was just mentioned or remembered. Lorna D, Nibasek, Nyla
Yeah,
Quinn.
Nib is the same way. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
because
think it was.
she's dead. Nyla Quinn, Oberta Glee, and then Orbelin.
I'm so glad they finally added John to Star Wars.
Just John.
Just John.
Got Regal Cole, Soleagra, Stellan Geos, Sho LaRue, and Yariel Poof.
All right, let me get to the crawl real quick. Centuries before the Clone Wars of the Empire, during the glorious era of the High Republic, the Jedi were at their height. The galaxy was at peace until dangerous marauders known as the Nihil caused the great disaster. Their attack on the Jedi and the Republic reached its peak with the destruction of Starlight Beacon, a space station meant to symbolize hope and unity. Now the Jedi have been recalled to Coruscant, fearful of the Nihil and the monstrous creatures they possess. Dun dun dun.
Nice. What I like about this episode, this issue, is that it gives you like different time jumps. So it starts at 5 days after the fall, goes to 6 weeks, then it goes to 2 months, and then 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and that's where it just leaves off.
Which is a recurring theme with all these shadows. So if you guys go back and watch our videos, it does that same thing. It does these time jumps and says, so it keeps you track. So it's really
Yeah, I think this is
interesting
the one book that didn't get to the year though.
It didn't get to the year, just halfway.
All the other two have gotten to 1 year past. This one did not, which tells me that the 6 months and what we're going to get in probably maybe issue 4, issue 5, issue 6 is like that's where that story is going to continue the 1 year after. Then we'll probably pick up where Bell is at that point with Buryaga.
I hope so.
Could be a book. I know we need a book with these guys in it. A young adult book or something.
So I'm going to go through the different pieces
coming out.
if you guys want to discuss that. So And it does, the one cover is a little spoilery if you haven't read Star Wars Tales of Light and Life, which I have read, so it wasn't a spoiler because I knew that he had rescued
I don't think it
Burry.
was a spoiler to anybody. Anybody that was listening to
Right.
San Diego Comic Con knew what was going on then.
I know. See, that's kind of
I mean,
spoilery too there.
they spoiled that months ago.
I know. Even before Tales of Light and Life came out.
It was
So,
Well,
really
yeah, because that's where that was the publishing panel is where they spoiled it because that book was coming out and the whole line was, where he lives. There you go.
it was
yeah.
really
I
weird because
said it.
at end of phase 1, you don't know what is going to happen. They're trying to make a big secrecy, and then they don't know how to handle it. So he's alive. Like,
Well,
kind of
because
hard.
they had that kids book with Buryaga too. So
Yeah.
it's like, how are you
So
going to tell a
Well,
5-year-old he
but the
died?
kids book, he does not die. He does fight the Rathars, but he does not die.
he goes
Right.
missing.
He goes
And I
missing.
remember, yes, and I remember at least you and I, Mike, having a discussion of how much we loved Buryaga, and maybe John was there too. I don't remember, but I remember saying I don't know how I can tell Sophia that
Oh my
her
God.
favorite High Republic Jedi is no longer.
Is dead. Right.
But
Just don't do
again,
that.
he was fighting the Rathars, and that was it. Like, you just assumed, like we did. Like, we read in that, well, those Rathars, they're going to tear him to shreds. Look what they did on, Han's ship. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
never
Um,
underestimate a Wookiee.
So in the 5 days after the fall, Starlight Beacon is on the shores of Iram, and then Bell and Elder are discussing their return to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant because there's been a recall of all the Jedi, right? Because they're like, oh, we've got to group together, bring all the Jedi back. We've got to come up with a plan. But Bella's reflecting on all their losses, and he's adamant the Burry is just missing. And even Elder's like, what do you mean missing? But Bell refuses to accept that he's gone. So he asks Elzar for Burry's saber, which is a kind of like a long sword for his large size, right? And it's similar to Stellan Geo's in that it has a crossguard, only a longer sword. And then he pledges to find Burry and return it to him. Then it jumps to 6 weeks after the fall, because if you read that, it gives you that little blurb, right? That to find out more, read Tales of Light and Life, and it tells you which
To
story.
see how Bell rescued Burry, read all the Jedi walk their own path in the Tales of Light and Life anthology.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Chris
just a
Pines, he just
recap of
shows up
that.
on a ship.
Have you read it, Jonathan?
I have it. I didn't know it existed.
I'm going to
So
give
I'm
you the
reading
quick
this,
recap.
and I'm like, what's going on?
Oh,
It's just like one page to the other page. It's like, that was some rescue.
He stays
Right,
on
yeah, but
Iram. He stays on. Everyone leaves. All the Jedi leave Iram, and he's the only one that stays. But then he has no money, right? So he's like, "What am I going to do?" Because there's no Jedi temple on Iram. So he starts to just
Right.
be like, It's similar to what happens with Kanan. He just has to like figure out a way of how to survive. So he starts kind of like, well, I can't just beg for food. So he starts doing like odd jobs here and there. He's like just
like
odd
Obi-Wan.
jobs.
Hey,
He
Like
learns
Obi-Wan.
to go fishing. He asks them, "Can I
yeah,
go?
he's a
Can I help
deckhand.
you guys
He's a
fishing?" Yeah,
deckhand.
he's like, "Can I go fishing with you guys?" And like, "Well, do you know what to do?" He's like, "No, but I can learn really fast." And he shows that he has the Force. And like, okay, we'll bring him along. And so they do teach him because he's letting the Force guide him through. Because they do warn him that even though initially the Jedi were seen as like the heroes because they saved the people of Iram, after a while they realize that they're not very liked because it's because of the Jedi that the Starlight Beacon got crashed upon their planet. So he's not very much welcome on the planet anymore, and he's not getting any support. So it's kind of like what happens to the veterans, when they come back. Initially there's a parade, and then afterwards, nobody wants to do anything to help them. So he does go on this fishing boat, and then they hear stories about these witches, and they're finding these like braids of hair, and then he sees it and it's like it's Wookiee fur. He's like, wait a minute. So that's how he starts to get a clue. And then he goes into the maw, and Burry has been, when he did crash, he fell underwater, but went into this underwater cave. And that's where he finds him.
Yeah, I think they call it the Maw of Shireen.
Yes, the Maw of Shireen. And he goes in the submarine to go down there to retrieve him. They're like, don't go, nobody comes back from that. And it's similar to the Maw with in Solo, right?
Right.
But that one's in space and this one's in the ocean. Um, so then 6 weeks after the fall, Bell surfaces in the submarine. That's after he's already recovered Burry, after rescuing Buryaga from the Malshireen. And Bell says it's time for the Nile to pay, which is not a very Jedi thing to say, right? And when he says that in the panel, you'll notice Burry's face is like he's worried when he hears Bell say that,
Yes.
because that's not, something's wrong. He shouldn't be
And
thinking that way.
Burry's very much an empath as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like his
Yes.
emotions are dialed up to a different notch. So
Right. He's very sensitive.
yeah, I thought
Then
he did a great job throughout the whole comic because obviously speaking
Shriwook. Mhm.
Shrewook, sorry, thank you. But his facial expressions, like you could just see what he was saying just based off that, which I thought was great.
Yeah. So then it jumps 2 months after the fall, and they're on the Jedi Temple in Coruscant, and we learn that the Council has locked down the entire order. Okay. And Ember greets them on their arrival, as does Indira Stokes, who was Bell Zedafar's second master after Loden was killed. And we learned that the healers were able to counteract the nameless effect, which is something new.
They were still in the process. I don't think they had really dialed her all the way back because she said they were
No,
still working on it.
but she's
That's what I
healing.
thought.
So the point
She
is
is
that
healing,
it's
yes.
not that it's impossible to come back from that. So that's something new that we didn't know about the nameless. So then she lets
Right.
them know that due to the Guardian protocols, which were in the first issue, both Bell and Burry get moved up and elevated to the rank of masters by Indira Stokes and
Knights.
uh,
They were knights, not masters.
but they call them master later.
No, they were referring to
Well, they go from Padawan to
Peter.
knight. Padawan to
Yeah,
knight.
Veter's the one that they were talking about later on. Is
Yeah, it says
we're coming for
knights
you,
you may
master.
rise. Yeah, it says knights you may rise. So
They're knights. And so Indira Stokes and Arkoff get to knight them. They become knights. And then it jumps to 4 months after the fall, and Bell is obsessed with Markion Rowe, and Burry is still more worried about him and keeps checking on him, right? But Bell's like spiraling in some kind of depression. Then it jumps to 5 months after the fall. Burry tells Grandmaster Pratri Veter of his concerns about Bell, and Pratri agrees that he's going to have to take Bell with him on a mission. And he's also says that he's not surprised that more Jedi aren't struggling to remain at the temple because their mission is to go help people, and yet they're staying back until they come up with a counterstrike. Then it jumps to 6 months after the fall, which is the end of this issue, and Burry is training the younglings, but he's really sad remembering of all the Jedi lost. And he's drawn Bell Zettifar, who is shown angry. And that reminded me of Yoda saying, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And so Grandmaster Veter is taking Bell with him on the mission task force, and Burry surprises them by showing up as well. And then it goes to 9 months after the fall, and they're traveling on the Third Horizon, the giant battle cruiser that's reminiscent of Darth Maul's Sith Infiltrator. Didn't it look like it? The shape, just bigger
yeah.
version. And Jedi are on an aid mission on Astronin, but Bell wants to assist on the attack. But then the Nile spot the Grandmaster Veter. They have their little trading cards. They're like, "Oh, it's him! Look, it's the Grandmaster Veter." Right? Their little trading cards, because they're like bounty hunters, right?
Yeah.
For the Nile. And so the Nile storm ship blasts their ship, and Veter directs Bell and Burry to protect the townspeople because they're on a mission to
Yes.
help the people.
Well,
So they ignite their lightsabers, and then they kind of like spark. They're like, they don't ignite. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly what happened, but
well,
they had a malfunction.
I'm so glad
No, it's the nullifier.
they
They
went
had
back
a
to
they had a
this
nullifier.
because if you remember, it was like one of the small storylines, and I think it was the Valar where it gets attacked,
Oh, Valo. Hmm.
and there's like a side storyline, and somebody's trying to sell a nullifier that turns off
Oh,
all weapons.
that's right.
And
That's right.
we never went back to that, but I
That's
think
right.
like at the end, like someone says, maybe it was Nan or someone says, "I have these plans," and it's just like we never revisited that ever. And it's like
Right.
so they finally revisit it with the lightsaber, but it's interesting because they seem to be able to focus it because before it was
Hmm.
a range, and that
Right.
the ship can fire. So I'm like, oh, they must have learned how to focus it, make it a little bit better. So, but it was
Right.
really, really cool.
But
I
it's
was
a
like,
huge
oh,
power drain.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just really cool that they came back around to that, to have that plan to reuse it. So I was really excited to say, because that to me was always a lost plot. I was like, why don't we ever talk about that again? So
Yeah,
I'm
that is a
really
good
glad they
thing.
brought that back.
Yeah, that is it is really cool. I forgot about the nullifier, but you're right. That's cool. So then Veter commands him to call for a pickup from the third horizon, right? While Veter distracts the Nile, and then Veter does something really cool. He uses the power of Shanju, an ancient force ability to fight without lightsabers to stop the Nile. And he's just like, and it's funny because when he yells, did you notice that like red halo around his his when he says Shanju?
Oh yeah, I read
Oh,
his.
Yeah.
I always thought like when they do the red, it's just like it's a not really a point of anger, but like
An exclamation mark.
yeah.
I think it is anger because I think he's touching the dark side a little bit because Shanju was a forbidden tactic, and it goes during the Clone Wars. There's one Padawan who is his name is Shanju, and he was a Padawan turned cult leader who taught himself to use the Force to direct it into his hands in place of fighting with a lightsaber, which is what Grandmaster Vader is doing. So even though this happens before the Clone Wars, it's still connected there.
Hmm.
And he was rejected from the Jedi Order because of this, because he wanted to he wanted to focus on using the Force as a weapon, and
It's
that's
kind of
Padawan Shanju.
Right.
like how
Well, but
Ezra
yeah, I was
Ezra
just gonna say the same thing,
Ezra
Jonathan.
did it.
I
Yeah,
remember like he's like, "You need a lightsaber," and he's like, "No, I've got the Force," and he
Hmm.
does very similar stuff. But I didn't feel
Right.
like he was touching the dark side.
normally
Um,
when somebody attaches the dark side in comics, the bubble's black. So
That's
yeah,
true.
so I'm like, I don't know if he is. I
But
think this
still, it's
master can.
something else. It's something else for sure.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Something else. Yeah. Meanwhile, Bell and Barry return with the rescue team, and then we have the to be continued. So it does. It goes up to 9 months after the fall. So
And
oh, it does go 9. Okay.
yeah, 9.
that master gets flattened, man.
Well, yeah, some kind of beam from the ship.
Yeah.
Right. So, any final thoughts, guys?
Um, I did. We didn't mention it, but I don't like his new look. I like the youthful, the dreads, and all that. They kind of clean cut him. They changed him up.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, I don't know why they would do that. Usually you want to keep his brand, kind of like that's we're always going to see him. But I don't know. It's kind of odd that they did that. But
I agree. I thought that
I
was
didn't
odd
mind
too.
that.
and I
Yeah, I
wish we
didn't
were.
mind it at all.
I didn't mind it. That was odd. I just liked his brand before, and then we don't really see the Charhound too much, and it was kind of always
That's my
Ember.
biggest
Yeah,
gripe. Yes, that's only my biggest gripe is that in the uh, synopsis before you get into the comic book, it says Bell and Ember are like out facing the galaxy. No, they're not.
It's
yeah.
just Bell.
Like
Hmm.
it's just Bell, and I don't even think Ember is with Bell on with Burry at this point. They left, and Ember's still back there with
They
Indira.
Master Snopes.
they
Hmm.
created him.
So it's, like I was like, that's the only thing that like got me.
Yeah,
I was like, but
Yeah,
he's not there.
but that's
Like
what I'm saying.
he's
It's
not
more
there.
against his brand. He's always been got the cool dreadlocks and the dog. I
and the
mean
dog,
that's
the
so I mean
Charhound.
that was one of the covers. It's like just that's kind of what I
Right.
kind of missed out. So I was like, it's interesting that they're taking him a different way.
Well, I think
So
that one cover, though, to me, like with the younger version and still having the youthful and the hair, and looking at the terrain that they were on, I believe that was back on, is it Dalma, where they had the Jedi Temple?
oh, you think way back?
Or
Oh,
Oh,
before.
right.
yeah, I
That's
think it's
right.
a,
'Cause
I think
he
it's a,
looked.
I think it's a, yeah, I
You're
think
right.
it's
He
a
was more
flashback
boyish. He
to
had a
like,
more boyish face, and he still had his dreadlocks. You're right.
but remember, he
Right.
always had to jump off a really high cliff. to try to catch
Right.
himself with the Force,
Right.
and Loden end up having to do it most of the time.
Right. Right.
So I think that variant was a flashback to those days.
I agree. I agree. So, what are your ratings, guys?
Let's go. I don't really think about this. Give me a minute. 3.5. Maybe, yeah, 3.5. It was cool. It was for a 9-month span. They made it seem short. I mean, it seemed like one of the shorter comics. They really plowed through that. I did like Buryaga, and you really see him. They really did an interesting job. Bryce mentioned there, and how he could see emotion, because normally, whenever there's a Wookiee, you can't tell another Wookiee from another one. They all look exactly the same. This Wookiee, Buryaga, has a distinct look. You can put him up next to another one. That's Buryaga. So he definitely has a distinct look, and so you could always see some emotion in him, which is great for him. And then you see him like being with kids. You really see him not being held back by the past. Obviously, what's happening to Bell. So, and he wants to be there for his friend who's going through it all, and so he is there participating. So we'll just see how that goes. But I'll say 3.5.
Not bad. Not bad. Bryce?
I go 4 out of 5 on this one. It was a very solid book. Again, I know you have to read another piece of material to really get the whole thing. It's just, if you haven't read it, Burry showing up out of nowhere is a little off. But like I said, like, is the whole Ember being with Bell, and that's the only thing that really kind of jived me on this one. His look changing was for me like he's growing as a person, as a Jedi.
Nice, nice. And just so you guys don't think I'm lying, I did put my holocrons in my notes, and I gave this 4 out of 5 holocrons. So just like Bryce,
I
huh?
think you're lying.
No, I'm sharing it. What? Share my
Show us
notes.
your notes. Show your notes.
Yeah, look at my notes. See,
I love
4
it.
holocrons.
And Mike is so detailed.
I gave it 4 holocrons, and on my notes, I put all my holocron notes on my notes too. So maybe I'll show that at the end. But yeah, 4 out of 5. I thought it was a solid issue. I loved the. It was fast paced, and I always like fast paced because I don't like to waste time. And I think it was really good to get the story moving, to get us somewhere else, because I'm ready to move into. I mean, they've got to get into the occlusion zone. They've got to
Well,
get.
I think that's what I think once we go, because after the way that they've been laying it out is like, well, in their reading order is to read Shadows 1, High Republic 1, Shadows 2, High Republic 2, Shadows 3, High Republic 3, Shadows 4, High Republic 4, and then 5 through 10 is just the High Republic. So I think we're getting all these build-ups, and then like 5 through 10 is exactly that. It's going to be, what the occlusion zone.
It's gonna be nuts. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
and
nuts.
we're gonna see so much stuff, and then But listen, hey, we also. Oh no, never mind. I'm thinking a different comic book. Almost spoiled it.
I know. I'm thinking that comic
Yeah.
book too, so I don't want to spoil that either. But I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for joining us, everybody, and be sure to follow us on YouTube at the Virtual Cantina Network, on Instagram at virtual.cantina network, on Twitter, now X, at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at virtual.cantina network, on Hive at Virtual Cantina, and on TikTok at Virtual Cantina. And like the VCN Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025 Facebook page, the mothership, and shout out.
And big shout out to the partner pages, Star Wars Book Nerds and Star Wars Comic Book Club.
please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Mike loves your comments. I don't care so much, but Mike loves them.
I live for comment.
he'll share us the comment in our thread. So please like and comment and subscribe. Also, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
None.